Welcome to the Rise Inside podcast, hosted by Justin Starbird and powered by Rise Robotics. Listen as host Justin talks to experts from the Rise team about topics relating to mechanical engineering, industrial design, commercialization, and innovation. True collaborations work when ideas are integrated at inception to solve significant problems. Rise Inside brings together how the team continues to work with great folks to commercialize ideas. You're listening to the Rise Inside podcast. Here's your host, Justin Starbird.
Welcome back to the Rise Inside podcast. My name is Justin Starbird, and I get to welcome in Rosa Henderson, Executive Assistant to the Chief Product Officer, who you've heard on this podcast many times, Ken Gray. Rosa, so happy to have you on today. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here.
There is so much cool stuff to talk about with you. You get to be the eyes and the ears of Ken Gray. You're involved in meetings. You're involved in a whole host of different elements and aspects at Rise. And yet you're only been here 60 days, 90 days or so. Tell me about, what your role at Rise is so far.
Yeah, it's been a fun ride so far, and it has only been about 60 days. I knew Ken from before, and he approached me to come to Rise to help him keep things afloat with his scheduling and meetings. And so I do a lot of that. I do it. We try to say we hurdle the cats or keep everybody in line. So anything from scheduling meetings, setting up projects, setting up presentations, anything under his watch that he needs help with.
Yeah, that's awesome. Sometimes he's the cat that needs to be herded too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, hey, buddy, come back.
It can be challenging sometimes.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And certainly a real welcome addition to the team here. I will say from being in many meetings with you, it's been wonderful to have your voice of reason and your ability to keep people on track. And that's quite apparent really quickly. So, your attention to detail is second to none here at Rise. So, but that said, you've had a real unique journey to get here as well. Like you said, you've known Ken from before. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you met him and kind of the circumstances surrounding that?
Yeah, I was introduced to some technology called eSight glasses in 2016. And through a process of events, I ended up working with the company, and Ken was actually a client of mine. Being that we both use the technology, being visually impaired, I was coaching new customers and teaching them about how to use the technology to the best of their abilities. And he was one of my patients.
That's awesome. And what was your role there? Tell me a little bit about, your rise in your career.
Well, when I first, I was born visually impaired. So when I was first attempting to enter the workforce, as most teenagers do, it was very challenging because when you disclose that you have a difficulty or a disability, the employer can be very, I guess, closed-minded is the best way to say it, just because of their lack of education and awareness. And so I would attempt to apply for jobs and get out there. And my disability isn't physically apparent looking at me. I don't, quote unquote, look blind or visually impaired. So it wasn't always apparent when I walked in and applied for a job or anything like that. And so if I would disclose it to say that I may need assistance in doing something or another, or may need a modification in how something needs to be done, that would lead to, I guess they call it ghosting, or you don't get callbacks. So it was a hard journey to get into the workforce. In most cases, it involved not disclosing it and hiding it, or so I thought, to the best of my abilities, or someone that I knew well would assist me into getting into a job.
Sure. Why do you think that is? I mean, I know you've been in the workplace for a few years, and we're listening to audio, and you sound great today, but you've been dealing with this your whole life, you know. As you stated, when you got into the workforce, there were some challenges, and you're thinking about entry level positions or maybe
Mhm.
retail or something like that. Um, how did that change? One, as you grew your education and became much more qualified, and then two, gained experience in the previous jobs, and then started to further your career. How did those what? No, I don't want to say boundaries, but how did those barriers begin? How, and then where, then what did they progress to? What are some of the things that you faced?
I think the pivoting point for me was when I did get connected with eSight. Um, the technology in itself is amazing and it helped me immensely. In fact, it very much helped me to gain confidence and abilities to go to college. I didn't go to college until I was in my early 40s. So I
Mm.
was very much the adult going back to school because I now have the tools to do so. So that helped my confidence building. If I can get a college degree, I can do a lot of things. And then it led to me being employed by eSight and being employed at eSight as a visually impaired person, going in with them knowing that I'm a visually impaired person. And obviously, actually, that was part of why they hired me, was because I could walk the walk and talk the talk in training the people that are learning to use the technology, because I am visually impaired and I did use it. So because,
You went through it. Those human factors,
yeah,
those testing. You're the human use case, and you're like, well, the package
yeah,
says this, but really, if you do that,
exactly,
yeah,
exactly. And so, the device was created by people who are not visually impaired, and
sure,
their best attempt at thinking of what it is we need the device to do, and a lot of input from us later, refine the device to what it is today. But I think the from the employer perspective, them knowing that I was visually impaired and it not being a factor in the job. So it was quote unquote like being free to be myself.
yeah,
And, if I needed help with something, it was no big deal. It's like, hey, can we make that a little bit bigger font size so I can see it better? Or can you share the screen with me so I can zoom in on my computer to see it? It was no big deal because other people there were also visually impaired. My supervisor there, I worked through under two people in management through my career there for 4 years. The first person was also visually impaired as my supervisor, which was amazing. And then the second person that was my supervisor for my second part of the job there was not visually impaired, but had an immense amount of empathy to say, well, let's figure out how you can do it. So it
yeah.
was always, let me show you how to do this, not let me do it for you. And
Yeah.
so that was the pivoting point that really pushed my confidence levels and my abilities and my technical training. And prior to working with them, I didn't know what Google Drive was or computer stuff or
Right.
you know and now I'm like, managing executives calendars, booking information, running projects, everything that needs to be done because somebody took the time to show me.
Well, it took the time to show you, but also you mentioned this a couple times already. You gained confidence,
Yes.
and I feel like in any role, whether you're, it doesn't matter where you are in life. You need confidence to get out of bed in the morning, to put your shoes on and go about, learning new activities or taking a chance to do those sorts of things. What was that journey like, to one, like, see a company take a chance, right,
Yeah.
and create a solution to a problem that you, like you said, is apparent, to millions of Americans, millions of people worldwide, and that hadn't really been solved, and then to initially work under somebody that had progressed a little bit quicker up the chain than you had, and you were working for them. And how did those things work to help boost that confidence and give you the ability to go to work every day?
Well, that was just it. As I learned new skills and learned to do new things, I started learning that I can do these things. It got to the point where, I started working with the sales department. I started working with the PR and going to events and doing speaking engagements. And, I always have trouble patting myself on the back. But at one point in time, I was leading the sales team in sales every month because I was able to present the product in a different way to the potential buyers because I could speak to what they were going through. So, I mean, you start gaining these positive experiences and it just starts boosting your confidence levels that you can do more and more. And having a supervisor that, every time I said, hey, how do I do this in Drive, or how do I do this in Google Calendar or whatever? He's like, here, let me show you. Right. He was always teaching me to fish.
Yeah.
So he opened a can of worms, and it got me to this level now where I just was like, I have value. I can provide value to an employer, and I can be very successful in helping them be successful. And,
absolutely.
I could not say those words, 5 or 6 years ago.
Well, how is that translated to other areas of your life? Not to get too personal here. I mean, I know this is a very professional podcast and we're at Rise Inside, and Rise is, really changing the world. But, by having an opportunity to bring folks like yourself on to a incredibly diverse engineering, team, sales team, marketing team, you're fitting not just in, you're driving change in your own way. But I've got to imagine that also extends to other areas of your life, because one of the cool things here at Rise is the commitment to culture and the commitment to extracurricular activities and the other things that we do. It's got to be, a huge impact on your personal life too.
Yeah, I mean, it's simple things and more involved things. I mean, things like traveling. Like, I traveled to Boston to visit the Rise office. I went by myself, and to some of my family members, that was a little bit daunting because it's like, what do you mean you're going by yourself? But navigating a big airport and doing all those things is a little bit intimidating if you have a difficulty. But I said before, it's like, I don't wait to be asked, how can I help you anymore? I ask for when I need help. It's like, if I've never been super shy, but I'm definitely not shy at all now when it comes to needing something or wanting something. I mean, I just moved to a new neighborhood and bought a new house with my husband. And I already know people on my street. I already introduced myself to, everybody in the area. And my mortgage broker was very delighted to work with me because she didn't have to remind me to do anything or take care of something because it got handled.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. That's really exciting too.
Thank you.
Well, with all of these changes, you also made a professional change. Well, in addition to knowing, Ken Gray and our Chief Product Officer here, what other elements led you to Rise?
It was an opportunity to work in a new environment. When I started working at Eastside, I did not consider myself a technically savvy person. At the end of my journey there, I really discovered again, wow, I can be taught. I can learn new things. And my daughter is very interested in mechanical engineering things, and she's actually in a trade school learning, mechanics and automotive and all that stuff. And when Ken approached me with the idea of helping him here, I was like, wow, this could really be enlightening in a lot of ways, and learning new stuff. And to the point where I was in a meeting just recently translating, because I'm also bilingual, translating a lot of this technology from English to Spanish to coordinate with a new contact we have. And that was like, whoa.
Yeah.
That was interesting. It was challenging, but I think I got through it because we're moving forward with the deal. So
well, that is very exciting. Making these changes, you mentioned in early in your career, employers weren't willing to make concessions or accommodations. What kind of things has Rise actually had to do to help you, be your best?
And that's the funny part. The only accommodation I have needed was an iMac 27-inch computer. One point because I needed the large monitor, and the second point because of the accessibility that the Apple products provide.
Yep.
That's literally the only thing they've had to do for me.
So
really complicated, right?
Absolutely, right. Well, hey, that's one of the things that we do here. We take really complicated things and make them simple. But using that as a I don't know, jumping off point. Why do you, maybe this is more cultural, I don't know. Why do you think so many employers are intimidated in attempting to assist those that are fully capable, but may have a hindrance?
I think it is just that is education. One of the points is that when somebody thinks of somebody as being blind, they think of no vision or lights and shadows. And the spectrum of blindness or visual impairment is completely 180 spectrum. I have a friend who is 20/60, which, if you know an eye chart, 20/20, and you move your way up, 20/60, she's at the cusp of being able to drive at approving a driver's license. But she has various blind spots in her vision that make her legally blind because her field of view is limited.
Yep.
I am in the 150-ish, 200 range. I think Ken would have to speak for himself, but I think he's in the 100 range. So when people think of blind, they think of no vision or limited vision, and they don't see how we could do things.
Yep.
And, to not call anybody out, but when I was visiting the office, someone played the "Can you see me" game. It's like, they're standing 10 feet in front of me. It's like, oh, so can you see me if I stand here? Or what if I stand over here? And it's like, yes, I can see you. I may not be able to see if your eyes are open. I may not be able to see if you're sticking your tongue out, but I can see you.
Yeah.
So,
and is that so it's education, it's also awareness. And does that start in school, or is that something that more public companies should take the lead on and it filtered down? Like, how do you see a solution?
Yeah, just any kind of awareness is awareness. I don't know how to spread the message. I think it's been something we've been fighting forever. My biggest thing would be if the takeaway could be that if you're curious, ask. Maybe don't play the "Can you see me" game, but just ask. Oh, so what is your vision like? Can you explain to me how you see things, and so I can understand? I've been with my husband for 35 years, and he doubts my ability of anything except maybe driving. And honestly, to tell you the truth, I have driven a car, off-roading and things like that. But he's like, yeah, whatever. You're going to Boston, okay? It's like,
yeah.
It's like,
he's like, if you think you can do it, you do it, right?
Yeah. He's like, there's a big show in Germany. Do you get to go? I'm like, I don't know. He's like, well, you should go. And I'm like, oh my God.
Right.
But yeah, he has no qualms about me doing anything. It's like, we're likely not going to apply for a job or ask to do something we don't think we should be doing. I'm not going to apply to be an airline pilot. I'm not going to, things like that.
Well, recently, so here we're in the month of July and we're celebrating Disability Pride Month. What does that mean to you?
I just want there to be awareness of what a disability can be and what it's not. Let people show you their abilities. Don't already assume what their disabilities are, or let them show you what they can do. Don't assume what they can't do, is a better way to say it. And it seems like there's a lot of this month and that month and awareness month. So I don't want to quote unquote go too much into like that part of it, but it's just, if one employer out there is listening and someone applies for a job, whether it be a visual disability or in a wheelchair or a problem with one of their limbs, don't just dismiss it. Just ask questions. How do you think you'd be able to fit in here? Do you think you'd be able to do the duties we're asking of you? Things like that. I mean, someone can can counter me, but I don't think Rise has asked me to do anything thus far that I haven't been able to do.
Right. And that it must be such a liberating feeling as well.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest liberating part of it is just that they know.
Yeah.
Although I challenge that there's probably people at the office that met me that have no clue that I was visually impaired, again, because it's not apparent.
Right.
But that's the biggest challenge, is that it's like, or non-challenge is that they know, and I don't have to hide it, and I don't have to wonder, oh gosh, if I disclose it, are they going to be like, oh, well, maybe she can't do this, or things like that.
Right, because you don't want people to feel bad for you. You want to be respected for the work and the capabilities that you have, just like any of your peers. Because hey, somebody with no such issues may have not done the job nearly as well as you, right? And so, I mean, those are facts, right? Sometimes people aren't good at their job and they need to adjust. And so, I mean, that's what I get out of this, is that you're a peer as it goes. And I just think it's so cool to have you on in a platform where you can, celebrate not just your successes, but also celebrate the opportunity to share with others how far you've come.
Yeah. I mean, that's the takeaway. It's not about, oh, poor me and look what I've been able to do. It's about, look what people can do despite of having a disability. And honestly, if you want somebody who's dedicated, hardworking, thinks outside of the box, is a problem solver, you need someone with some kind of impairment, because we have to think outside the box, be dedicated to the employer, because we may not get another one or another opportunity, and problem solve, because we do that on a daily basis.
Right. Well, and you amplify all of your other senses, right? I mean, that's something that you always hear too, is that, when something is taken away, now you rely on all of these other tools that you have in your belt to become that much better at doing whatever's in front of you.
Mm-hmm. Fine tuning. Yep.
That's so cool. Well, the last thing I wanted to ask you about is we're actually about to post a blog that you wrote too, it kind of related to this topic. Do you want to, talk a little bit about that as well?
Sure, if you'd like.
What was it was a similar topic, but walk me through, what gave you, I don't know, what got you started to write this article?
Someone at eSight, as I was doing my exiting interviews, was asking me about my journey there and what had happened and how things are. And I talked to her about, my supervisor and him teaching me to fish and working in an open environment with people who were aware of my disability and not having to hide it. And she's like, you really should write this story. And it was back to the whole, well, I don't want to be a poor me story and like, look what I got to do. It's just, I want employers to be aware that, you could be missing out on a big pool of employees, by not giving people a chance. And she just kind of pushed me to write it, and she gave me a bit of an outline. And once I got started on it, I was just like, yeah, there's a message there. It's like, just be open-minded and just like, accommodations. It's like, you don't have to buy a whole bunch of technology and special software, and it could be simple. It could be a large monitor. It could be someone needs a certain type of desk that allows, their device to fit under. If it's a wheelchair, it could be very simple. Ask what they need. Don't assume that it's going to be too hard. They likely wouldn't be applying if they didn't think they can do the job.
Right. Well, that is really exciting. I can't wait to see the feedback and share, be able to have a follow up on this in 6 months with you.
Yeah, maybe I'll get promoted.
Yeah, that would be great too. Well, Rosa, thank you so much for joining me today. I have really enjoyed talking to you, learning more about, not just the challenges you went through, but actually what's even more cool is how you've overcome them and how today, just seeing you in your element and all the success that you're having.
Well, thank you so much. I hope to be here for a long time.
Likewise, we hope you are too.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the latest episode of the Rise Inside podcast. On behalf of Rosa Henderson, our executive assistant to the Chief Product Officer, Ken Gray, my name is Justin Starbird.
You have been listening to the Rise Inside podcast, presented by Rise Robotics. On behalf of our guest today and host Justin Starbird, thank you for listening. Please share your feedback on our LinkedIn page, linkedin.com/company/rise-robotics.